Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Beanie, and welcome back to another tutorial. And this is going to be a bit of a more traditional tutorial that I had like in the first 10 episodes, you know? And this is something that people have been asking for a while. And it's just something that's been a little bit more difficult to put together. And I don't know, this video may end up being longer. But this video is going to be on plate discipline and situational hitting, something that I see a lot of people struggling with, and something that if you master and you can become a smarter hitter, it could be that thing that catapults you from the DS or the CS into the World Series. I'm really hoping that that's the case for some of you. I'm really hoping that you can take the advice here and really catapult yourself into being a better player. So with that said, let's get into it. By the way, I'm going to be just playing against the computer. It's a little bit more difficult to do this, you know, while playing against an opponent. I would have to, like, play the game and then do a voiceover for it and try to find myself in, like, the situation. So, like, what I'm saying may not, like, completely jive with what's going on the on the screen or whatever. But I'm just doing that, you know, for you to have something to look at. But for the most part, just listen to what I say. I know that sounds kind of stupid and the production quality is shit, but, you know, fuck me, what can I do? Anyways, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, guys, I'm going to break this down into two separate overarching sections. The first one being plate discipline and the second one being situational hitting. And in the first part, plate discipline, my first tip is do not be afraid to take a strike. This is something that I see from a ton of players. It seems like they have like a moral imperative that they cannot take a strike. It's just something they don't like to do. Like if they see a strike, they're gonna hit it. But there are a lot of strikes. Like if there's a pitch on the lower outside corner of the plate, and it's just, you know, it's a really solid pitch or something like that, it's probably going to get called for a strike, and yet there's probably not a lot that you can do with that pitch. And it also, whenever you know, a lot of times those fringy strikes, they get called as balls. So you really don't want to have a fear or an imperative against taking strikes. You know, big leaguers do it in real life, and if you start to make yourself realize that it's okay to take a strike, then you'll start to realize that, you know, being a little bit more disciplined at the plate in general is a good thing, and it can help you become a better player. See, like right there, I just took a strike, but it was only because it was a 3-0 count. Normally, that'd be a good pitch to hit. Right here, I may take another strike. See, that I probably should have swung at that because that was a good pitch to hit. But I'm just trying to, you know, kind of work the count and you know, put myself in a good position. And right here, I'm a really good 2-strike hitter. So see right there, I probably, if there were less than 2 strikes right there, I probably would have taken that pitch, because it wasn't a very good strike to hit. It was a very good pitch by the pitcher. But since there was 2 strikes, you know, I kind of had to swing at it, but it was right on the black. It was an extremely good pitch. But yeah, just kind of get in the mindset that it's okay to take a strike from time to time. The second tip is that walks are amazing. We're going to talk about this later, but it is just your goal with less than, you know, with no outs and nobody on, your goal to start an inning is to get on base. That is your goal. That should always be your goal. And it doesn't matter if it's through a hit, if it's through a walk, if it's through a hit by pitch, if it's, you know, if they make an error, your goal should be to get on base. And if you're being hyper aggressive at the plate and swinging at everything, it becomes, you know, you limit yourself to only getting base hits or only, you know, having to get on through your opponent making an error. And that's not a good way to hit. You're limiting yourself too much. A lot of people talk about, man, it's so hard to get walks in this game. If you're a disciplined player and you know how to work counts and you have an approach at the plate, it's really not. You would be surprised how often guys will give you walks. Just because, you know, they think you're going to be overly aggressive. or, something like that. But if you show them that you have a semblance of plate discipline, by the fourth or fifth inning, they're going to realize that you're not going to be swinging at any balls and that you're going to be a really disciplined hitter. So they're going to start giving you a lot more fat pitches to hit. And speaking to that, my third tip, and it's not really a tip, it's just a strategy that some guys like to employ, and I would probably advise against this strategy if you struggle to hit with two strikes, because it's kind of dependent on you being a good two-strike hitter. But a lot of people will, for the first 2, 3, 4 innings, they will not swing at a pitch until they have 2 strikes. They'll just watch everything. And, I was, towards the beginning of last year, I was an extremely aggressive hitter. I was good. I was still World Series caliber, but something was holding me back from really being the top of the top, being one of those top 10, top 15, top 20 type guys. Something was holding me back, and it was my plate discipline. Because I would swing at everything, and I was really good at fouling stuff off, so I could kind of get away with it. But once I employed the strategy of, for the first 3 or 4 innings, not swinging until I took 2 strikes, it took my whole game to another level. So, but if you don't know how to hit very well with 2 strikes, it can be counterproductive, because, once you get in that hole, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to climb out of. But, there are a lot of benefits to this strategy. One benefit is you run your opponent's pitch count up, and that is huge. Once you start digging into your opponent's pitch count and they've thrown, 60 pitches in the first 3 innings, that stamina is going to get a little lower. They've probably walked a few people, so their confidence is going to be lower. Your PCI is going to be bigger. And then they're going to, like I said earlier, they're going to realize that they're going to have to throw you good pitches to get you to swing at it. And another benefit of that is that you give yourself that extra opportunity to get on base by taking walks. So yeah, it's a really good strategy, guys. And if you are confident in your ability to hit with 2 strikes, it's something that I would definitely recommend doing. And the fourth tip kind of goes in line with the third tip. If you do decide to employ that strategy, a really good way to practice everything else is, and to kind of make yourself better in a different way, is to look for patterns that your opponent uses while pitching, because you're facing another human, and humans have tendencies. And if you can pick up those tendencies, it's going to make you so much better. Because just think about it. If you realize that, on a full count, this guy never throws fastballs. He may quick pitch, and then he does he throws a changeup, because he thinks you're looking dead fastball, but he's throwing a changeup. Do you know how big of a benefit it is to know, with almost 100% certainty, that changeup is coming? It's insanely huge. And another thing that you can do, which I'm kind of demonstrating right now, is that you can practice tracking your pitches. Just kind of take your thumb off of the X button, but still track pitches with your PCI, and it'll help you a ton whenever you do decide to start swinging, and it'll help you just really overall with PCI placement. You'll really teach your hand and your mind how to track pitches, and that will make you a ton better too. So those are my tips on plate discipline. Now let's move on to situational hitting. Okay, for this, I'm going to kind of provide you with a variety of scenarios and just give you a few options about what I might do in those particular scenarios. And what I think the optimal strategy is going into it, because you have to have an approach when you hit. You have to have an idea of what you want to do when you go up there, and it'll make you a lot better. So obviously the first situation is the beginning of the inning, nobody on, nobody out. And we've talked about this earlier. What you want to do is just do anything you can to get on base, scratch, claw, whatever you absolutely can do to get on base. And taking a walk especially like at the beginning of a game with your leadoff hitter who's probably a lot faster, is insanely huge. It will, I mean, it's almost like he just walked a guy who is probably going to come around and score, because you can steal second, you can move him over, and then get a sac fly, and voila, you have the lead. Okay, the second situation is nobody on with a runner on first, and this is a type of situation that you're probably gonna find yourself in very often. And really, there are a variety of things that you can do, and one thing that you really want to avoid. You can always steal if the guy on first, if you're confident in his stealing and his speed, and the guy on the mound doesn't know how to slide step, you can always steal. You can always do things like a hit and run. That can be very effective, and it's something that I never see hardly anybody ever doing. Hit and runs can get defenders out of position. They can, if you don't hit and run and you hit a ground ball through the infield to the right fielder, oftentimes that's just going to leave you with runners on first and second. But if you're able to do it with a hit and run, you're going to have runners on the corners, and you're going to be in a much better situation to score that guy. So hit and runs are also very effective, but basically, I would just try to get a hit, in a situation like that mostly. But you can employ those other strategies, and, a lot of people may want to bunt in that situation. I'm really not a fan of giving up outs unless it moves the guy to third base with less than 2 outs, and we'll talk about that a little later. So I'm not a huge fan of bunting in that situation, but I understand the strategy behind it, and it's certainly something that you could do. Okay, now with nobody out and a runner on second, this is also a scenario that you can, that can have a variety of outcomes and a variety of things that you can do. Wait. Let me go back to the last point. The one thing that you do want to avoid in any scenario with nobody out and a runner on first is ground. You do not want to ground into a double play. No, I got a fast guy, so I didn't. You do not want to ground into a double play. That is the last thing you want to do. You would rather strike out than ground into a double play. That is the worst case scenario. So if it means that, the guy that you're facing is a sinker baller and he gives you 3 amazing sinkers that, he painted on the lower outside or the lower inside corner, and that the only thing you could do with it was hit a ground ball, you probably just want to go ahead and take the strikeout right there, as crazy as that sounds, because that's a better outcome, honestly, than a double play. Okay, now moving on to nobody out and runners on second base. Now this is a situation where I think bunts are very, very effective. If you aren't confident that you can get a ground ball to the right side or hit a deep fly ball to move that guy over to third base, in that situation, your job is to move that guy to third base. And it doesn't matter if it does matter, but you're willing to take an out right there in order to do it, because you still have less than 2 outs and you have a runner on third base, and it's going to be really easy to get that guy in. So yeah, bunting is fine right there. A ground ball to the right side of the infield is a very, very good thing right there, and it can help you a lot. And it kind of has the same effect as like a bunt would have, but it has a chance of getting through too, and you getting a hit, so that would be ideal. And you can always get like a deep fly ball or something, and probably more to the right side is what you would want. But oftentimes if the guy on second has a little bit of speed, a deep fly ball to the left side can get him over to third too. So you just want to, your only mindset in that type of scenario is to move that guy over. And then obviously, with nobody out and a runner on third, you just want to get him in. If you want to do a suicide squeeze, a lot of people think that that's kind of cheesy, but it's whatever. Get that guy in. Oftentimes, if the infield isn't playing in, a ground ball will do it, a fly ball will do it. It's not hard to score that guy. The only thing you kind of want to avoid is like popping up. If you pop up, it's probably not going to get that guy in. And if you strike out, it's not going to get that guy in. So maybe you do want to be a little bit more aggressive in a situation like that. That, you don't want to put yourself in that 0-2 hole. So yeah, just get him in any way possible. Now for the final no out scenario, nobody out, runner on first and second. I know that there are some other scenarios that I should talk about, but I just kind of wanted to go over some of the ones that I find myself in often. And nobody out, runner on first and second is kind of similar to nobody out, runner on second, except that you have the possibility of grounding into a double play. So a ground ball to the right side really isn't going to be the best type of scenario. And you are in a great position to get some runs across the board if you're able to get in this spot. You just have to execute your next at bat effectively. So things that you could do, a bunt, in my opinion, is great in this situation. It gives you two runners in scoring position, and I would almost rather have runners on second and third with one out than runners on first and second with nobody out, and that gets that done. But basically, what you want to do is you just want to move them over in any way that you can. If it's a fly ball, deep, and it'd have to be a really deep outfield to be able to get both of them across. Fly balls probably wouldn't be the best idea, honestly, because most of the time you would probably just move the guy from second over to third, and you would have runners on the corners, and the double play would still be in play, and it'd be a little bit more difficult, but it does, get some of the job done. Even though you're kind of making it a little harder on yourself. But a bunt in that situation, I hold no ill will towards people who bunt right there, because it's so easy to get runners across the plate with runners on second and third and nobody out. And one out, I'm sorry. Okay, and only have a few more scenarios here that I kind of want to play out for you guys. The first is with one out and a runner on second. I just want to talk about this one because a lot of people don't seem to know this, but in my opinion, and in really baseball's opinion, this is the only time where you should ever even think about stealing third base. Only with a runner on second with one out. That's with one out. Never steal third base with two outs. With nobody out, never do it, because with nobody out, there are a ton of good ways to get that guy over to third base that's not as risky. And with two outs, you're already in scoring position, and being at third base isn't a whole lot different than being at second. So only with one out should you steal, and only if you're confident in your guy, that your guy can get there. Typically, I don't like bunting guys over to second base, but with one out and a runner on first base, sometimes I think it can be helpful to bunt that guy over to second. I think that having a runner in scoring position, even with two outs, you're only one base hit away from scoring that guy. So I do think that it can be okay sometimes with one out if you have a runner on first. But it's also a good idea to do the things that we've talked about, like if you're confident, you can steal, you can do hit and runs. Stuff like that can be very, very effective. So I don't think a bunt is always like the best answer to that situation. Maybe it depends on who you have up at the plate and stuff like that. But, getting that guy into scoring position is important, and it can be really beneficial if you're able to do it. Okay, and this last one is going to be kind of about your approach, and I just gave up a home run right there. With two outs, and really in any situation with two outs, it's probably a bit more proper if you become a little bit more aggressive, because, like I said earlier, a strikeout in certain situations is a better outcome than like a double play or something like that. Well, with two outs, it's really not, because it's not as palatable, because the inning's over. the threat is ended. So you might not want to take until you have two strikes whenever you have two outs, because if you do end up striking out, you could find yourself in a good position. The bases could be loaded or something like that. So you just want to find a good pitch to hit, and you want to drive it. You don't want to watch many strikes if there are two outs. So just be a little bit more aggressive at the plate. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm kind of struggling to talk. It seems like my sore throat is coming back. So I tried to soldier through this as best I could for you guys. And yeah, that is gonna do it. I don't know if I made a ton of sense on everything, but I did my best. And yeah, guys, that is gonna do it for this tutorial episode. Hopefully it helped you some, and you're gonna start thinking about hitting in a different way. That's really what this is. It's just really the way that you think about hitting, and the way that you approach your at bats. It's all really a mental thing. This was more of a mental tutorial. So yeah, guys, I will see y'all tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, and retweet. Guys, I'm only like 65 subscribers away from 1,000. It would mean a ton to me if you told a friend who liked MLB The Show or liked commentaries. I'm going to come out with some more commentaries this weekend. I'm sorry, I kind of scrapped the other one because it wasn't very good, and I found one that was better, so I decided to do it, but I haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, guys, I will see y'all tomorrow. I love you. Peace.